All I'm going to do is define for you the steps that I take once I've got a pre-construction agreement sorted out, right through to construction commencement.
How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast, another whiteboard session. If you're on the podcast, you're going to have to shoot across to YouTube, check that out, and watch me scribble on this whiteboard. It might make a little bit more sense. Thanks for joining us. Great to have you along for the ride. My name's Max. I'm your host. I'm the president and CEO here at Smith & Sons Canada, and I'm the ambitious founder of EliteBusinessAdvisory.com, where I specialise in custom coaching for general contractors and builders. You can email me, max@EliteBusinessAdvisory.com, or get across to EliteBusinessAdvisory.com. Hit the book a consultation button, come and have a chat with me about your business, and we'll just see what happens. Right, one of these drops every week, so like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And maybe if you're feeling kind-hearted, you could leave us a review. See how you go. Thank you for joining me if you're a first timer, and if you've been with me for the long term, I appreciate you hanging in there. Hopefully you get something out of this. Okay, don't forget, Business for Builders VIP, get across there, answer the 3 questions if you're a good sort, I'll let you in. Good little group of general contractors and builders. Look, I encourage you to ask some questions because there's a lot of knowledge in that room. Yeah, you've got to step out of your comfort zone and maybe just throw down there. And if you're not getting any performance out of that, email me, max@EliteBusinessAdvisory.com, and I will answer your questions if that doesn't work out. But I'm pretty sure there's some helpful folks in there. All right, today, what I'm going to run through, all I'm going to do is define for you the steps that I take once I've got a pre-construction agreement sorted out, right through to construction commencement, right? So there's a very compartmental way that I take my clients so that it ensures that I stay in control of the narrative and the process, okay? I don't want people running off and, doing their own thing, because not only am I having to liaise and deal with the homeowners, but I've got several other design services, whether it be architects, engineers, geotechnical, land surveyors, interior designers, and God knows what else, that I've got to basically coordinate, which is kind of like rounding up kittens occasionally, that I've got to make sure I stay in control of each of the steps. So I'd like to think that what I'm going to draw on the board here real quick is going to maybe bring some clarity to you and how you can stay in control of your pre-construction phase. So over here, construction start. That's where we start to make real money, okay? So a couple of things. I'm actually just going through this process with a fairly large 6-figure contract potentially. Okay, and so what we've got here is we've got a $5,000 pre-construction agreement in place. Okay, so that, and then also what I've done, just so you know, any of the design services, okay, is cost plus 20%. Okay. Cost plus 10%. I'm getting carried away. So now, in hindsight, there's a part of me now that thinks I should have gone cost plus 20. But remember, we don't make our money here. We make our money over here. So let's just get through this as quickly as we can. So when I'm guiding a client, what I don't believe that you should do is to leave clients in the dark. Okay. None of us, the highest form of disrespect is lack of communication. Okay. So what I do is I am an advocate or a supporter of prompt, appropriate communication. So if a client messaged me on Saturday night, they're probably not going to get prompt response or communication. On Monday, they'll get appropriate communication. Now, unless you're doing a basement, there's a flood or something going on, I'd ask clients, look, text me the information. I might be able to text you back with a quick answer. Manage the relationship, right? So, okay, so to make sure, I explain the process for the client, but it's like telling kids to clean their bedrooms up. You can tell them once, you'll tell them 1,000 friggin' times. They just seem to have this amnesia friggin' situation where they're like, oh, what, I've got to pick up my clothes and put them in the hamper? Yeah, you do, right? So I'm not saying patronize your clients, respect your clients, but understand that they're not in this game. That's why you and I are here. So what we've got to do is understand that, empathize with their position, and then communicate with them accordingly, okay? First thing that I do here is what I call the discovery process. Now, funny story. I split this 50-50, okay? So I'll take 50 up front and then 50 when I present the final proposal, right? Now, what I didn't do just recently, this discovery is all about going to the city to go, is it a go or is it a no-go? Okay, that's my whole reason. Is the reason I held off. I got an agreement in writing that they were okay with that amount for me to oversee the whole pre-construction phase. But what I didn't do is we actually deployed the architect to draw some concepts so we could actually go to the city, right, to figure out if that design was going to be okay, right? There was height restrictions. We had to make sure that all of the services that were connected were going to be adequate for the new build, etc. And so what we had to do is just talk to the city, and we approached my architect. I commissioned him. So I made it clear to the homeowner. I said, look, this design services. I need to engage my architect to go out, do a measure up, to do a very quick concept plan so that he could then approach the city to understand from a senior planner's position if this project was able to be built. Now, senior planner come back and said, look, no problems with the height, okay? But there was some sewer and septic concerns that we had to reach out to another third party. Now, we've pretty much got the go-ahead from the city in the discovery process. So I've since taken $2,500, okay? Because I'm fairly confident we're going to move forward. So the client is now, I'm here to serve the client in this capacity. I'm doing the legwork. Now, this is an out-of-town client. It's 12 hours away that way. So they're wanting somebody boots on the ground that they can trust, that they've got good chemistry with. And I feel the chemistry and I actually feel the trust. They trust me implicitly. They're talking to me at a level where you can just tell there's unconditional trust, and I'm not going to let those folks down, okay? So discovery, that's the first thing. So then what we do is we then go and finalize concept drawings. So we go to concepts. So it's like, all right, the concept drawings is what is next, because I've got to liaise and I've got to, monitor and mediate between the architect and the homeowner. There's some things the architect have done where I'm like, oi, dude, it's a media room. It's not a bedroom. Why do you keep labeling it a bedroom? The client's flipping out. So I try and insulate the client from some of the design services BS. That's your job. That's my job, okay? So we've got concept drawings. So we backwards and forwards that where the client, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get from the client on the concepts a tick of approval. So we go, right, discovery, we're good. Concepts, we're good. Now, then what we've got to do, the next port of call is where we've got to engage an engineer. Because what the engineer will do, he will take a look at these concepts and he will go, okay, as far as point loads are concerned, lateral bracing, all of the structural stuff, this is a second story addition. So is the foundation adequate enough, or do we have to go and talk to an geotech and do underpinning and all that kind of stuff? In this case, I don't think we do, but that's going to be the next step. So I've got to, now remember, the engineer is design services. So if his bill's a couple of $1,000, I make a couple of $100 for my trouble. Not going to make me a wealthy man, but at the end of the day, at least it chips in something, right? So we keep this project. Remember, we make money over here, don't we? Yes, we know we do, okay? So we've got engineers now involved in the concepts. Now, why do I need that engineer there? Because I can't move to the next stage, and hoping that I haven't left anything out, but I can't move to the next stage. So what's the next stage? The next stage is construction drawings. Okay, I need the construction drawings. Now, at this point, I have a better chance of being able to price it, okay? But before I do, the minute I get construction drawings, I will put that together and we will go for selections. Hopefully I don't run out of spots here. So we've got construction drawings all done. Sorry about my really bad high-end writing. Selections. So then, because what I'm doing is I'm going to start the pricing. I'm going to put pricing here because I think I might run out of. So those two, they're together. Because until I confirm selections, then I can price. But I can price things like concrete and steel and, lumber or wood or timber, wherever you're from, and trusses and, everything to do with the framing. That can all be done. Okay, so this is slowly. Now, what you might find is that in some cases, this is where you'll also get an interior designer. Okay, they'll get involved there. Again, another design services. So it looks like we're clipping tickets, but for this situation where the client is out of town, I've got to lean on my design network. Like once we get to construction, I'm going to lean on my supply network and my subcontractor network to help me build the place as well, right? So the competence that's built into this system based on my relationships is what the client is buying. They're saying, we're going to engage Max and he's going to stick handle it. He's going to quarterback it. And that's sort of where we're up to, right? So pricing starts here. And then probably the next stage after we get the selections and the pricing, what I've got a tendency to do is to then go into, so what I'm going to need from the clients is what I call an agreement in principle. So I say to the client, look, it's going to be $850,000 to do it. And they're like, okay, now I'm going to get that in writing, of course, because once I get the agreement in principle, then what we're going to do is we're going to go for city application. Okay, so we've got an agreement in principle, right? So what that does is it gives me confidence to know that we've got the engineering is sorted out. That's how we've got to the construction drawings. We then engage the services of maybe an interior designer to confirm the selections, which means I can begin the pricing. Once I've got the pricing, we can go straight into the agreement. Do I get a head nod? Now, there could be, in between this here and this here, there could be some backwards and forwards about price. There's some negotiation. We were considering as part of this project that the kitchen's in reasonably good condition. Do we get rid of it? Do we upgrade that because we're upgrading everything else? The decision come down today that no, we're going to leave the kitchen as it is. Now, that's fine, but when I'm doing my estimate, duly noted, I've got to make sure that I include or allow for measures to be able to protect that kitchen because it's got stone tops and we've got to redo the flooring. We're going to actually reconfigure part of the entry and convert that into a pantry. So we're working in close proximity and we're pulling the roof off. So then I've got floor joists going over the top. Like I've got electricians pushing wires through, and that kitchen has got to be protected. So I haven't figured out what I'm going to do, but that's just one of the things that I've got to consider. Anyway, so there's this negotiation backwards and forwards between the pricing and getting to this agreement in principle, okay? Once I get that agreement in principle, we go for the city application. Once we've got the city application, the building permit issued and we're good to go, what do? We go to a contract, folks. Now remember, this is me around the whole fixed price process. If this may be similar. Yeah, look, there'd be some differences potentially in the pricing and the final price. Obviously, we're talking about, fixed price here, okay? And then off the back of that, once I have that signed and sealed, then what I can do is I can add that to my project start schedule. Now, I've got a business partner who is doing everything on site, but the project, so I handle everything from the first phone call right through to pre-construction agreement, right across through all of these design services, right through to the building contract itself. I don't hand it off to Jed at that point, although we are definitely got an overlap happening at that point. But what I do is I add that to project start schedule. Now I've got to do the handoff, but before I do, I've got to start setting up some of the ordering. Based on the start date and the schedule, that's when I can start ordering some of the big ticket items to make sure that when we have that start date, which today is the 7th of April or thereabouts, we're going to start this project in September 1 of this year, 2025, okay? So if, we're working through all of this is all put on a schedule because I've got deadlines. If it's going to take me 8 weeks to get city approval, okay, and I've got a start time of September 1, like hard start, then I've got to make sure that I leave myself at least 8 weeks for this. So when I start reverse engineering, like we're at concept stage right now, okay? But we're a whisker away now from getting to construction drawings. We're about to engage the services of the engineer, which won't be, that it's not that complex project where he's going to need to sit on it for 3 weeks. He could probably do that in a week. Okay, so this whole process, once we get construction drawings, selections is the next thing, get an agreement in principle off the back of your pricing, go to city. Because here's what can happen. I don't go to contract here. Some of you guys and gals might be going, mate, lock them down. What I've seen happen, okay, what I've seen happen is that builders get to this point and they go to contract and they get money. Notice back here, to get to discovery, I didn't rush in. I've been talking to this guy for now 2 months, and I've just got half of that right now, literally in the last 48 hours, because I needed to make sure that this was a go before I took any dollars, because nothing will piss a client off more than all of a sudden they've spent money and they don't think they've got any value, okay? Now, transition right forward here where you've done all the pricing work. Now, at this point, when I present that, this is where the other 2,500 in this case kicks in, okay? What you got to make sure is that we get a head nod here in writing, and then we basically, again, city approval or city application fees are all part of the design services, okay? It's all wrapped up because it's pre-construction, right? Now, what happens when the city comes back and says, hey, because this home backs onto, forestry, and you've got 3 of these big windows up in that, top level, and that needs to be fire rated, so we need you to remove those 3 windows. And you present that to the client, and then the client says, no, if I can't have those 3 windows, I'm not building it. It's like this. I get this money. If the client's not willing to compromise with the city, then at that point, the deal's off. It's broken. It's not going to go ahead. That's why I don't take any money here. I need a head nod and something in writing to acknowledge that there's an acceptance. And in my system, they can approve that quote or that estimate, and then I can make it clear that we're going to move into application process with the city. And at that point, this is where I would get paid based on the design services on top of whatever the applications are for city. Okay. Now, when we get a tick of approval from the city, at that point, now I can comfortably go to a building contract. So then obviously after you've got the building contract sorted out, you've got money in the bank. Now we could, I might do a video a little bit later about identifying your hotspots throughout the build process. So when you go to a fixed price contract, not so much cost plus, but fixed price, how do you identify the appropriate times when you should ask for a certain amount of money? Okay. And so, once we get them into the project start schedule, like I was saying, I do all the procurement. So the major big ticket items, I start to issue purchase orders. That's my job. Okay. So we get the ball in motion so that when we do hit this, everything starts to be scheduled. So when I'm now communicating with Jed, my business partner who handles everything, he's my construction manager essentially, and I'm the manager. I do all the procurement. Okay. So what we want to do is put into the project start schedule, because I think when I talked last week about making the clients happy throughout the construction process, obviously we want to impress them with how diligent, how organized we are throughout the pre-construction phase, but we want to roll straight into, when we do the construction start, we want to roll straight into being as organized or more effective than what we were here, and get cracking and make sure that when we set out a time to build, it might be a 6-month project, or in this case, I think it's an 8-month project, that everything is in my Gantt chart. So I'm literally watching a critical timeline going, we must get the roof off and back on and that thing buttoned up before the snow flies at the end of this year. Like, there's critical deadlines throughout the process. So I always get edgy because I want to I don't want to be submissive to the building, process. I want to make sure that I'm in control of that process and ensure that we get the outcome that the clients expect, because that makes us look good, and it's a lot easier to get a video testimonial when you've ticked all the boxes and made everybody happy. If you got any questions on that, it was a pretty quick deep dive into how I like to work through the process. If there's something I've missed or something that wasn't clear, be sure to email me, max@elitebusinessadvisory.com. Get across to elitebusinessadvisory.com. Hit the book a consultation button if you want to have a chat with me about your business and your business goals. And maybe we can chat about whether or not you're a fit with me and my coaching business to see whether or not we can go down that route. That will help you build your business, there's no question. Get across to Business for Builders VIP on Facebook, like and subscribe on YouTube here. If you're feeling generous, leave us a review on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you listen to a podcast, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Go build a kick-ass business. Cheers.